Donald Trump has a problem.
We are going to leave nothing uncovered. With that being said, the king firmly denied any knowledge of it.
Having firmly aligned his administration with Saudi Arabia against Iran, someone's gone rogue.
It sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers. Who knows? We're going to try getting to the bottom of it very soon.
But the rogue element is most likely inside the Saudi royal court. It appears that journalist and regime critic Jamal Khashoggi was killed when he went to the Saudi consulate in Turkey to sign papers so he could marry his new fiancée.
He was ready to start the next phase of his life with this young woman.
He never left the building. Turkish authorities say they have evidence that he was murdered inside by a group of Saudi operatives who'd flown in to do it. His body was allegedly cut up with a bone saw and removed as his fiancée waited outside. The Trump administration is under pressure to respond, though the president says Saudi Arabia being blamed is another case of guilty until proven innocent.
Depending on the outcome of this evidence that are expected to be presented by the Turkish Attorney General, it seems that this operation was a cold-blooded assassination.
It's entirely possible that Jamal did more in his death to cause pain to Saudi Arabia than he did in his life. And if anything, you know, they've elevated him to a potential martyr, a hero.
Khashoggi was less a dissident than an intellectual thorn in the side of the Saudi leadership.
As we speak today, there are Saudi intellectuals and journalists jailed. Now nobody will dare to speak and criticize.
His demise suggests that the Saudi royals, and specifically Trump ally Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS, are very thin-skinned.
Nobody saw him as a threat. So the only possible explanation could have been that the Saudi leadership did not tolerate any sort of dissent.
Jamal used to tell me himself that nothing like this happens without the knowledge of Mohammed bin Salman.
Living in self-imposed exile in the United States due to fear of arrest, he was writing for the Washington Post. Karen Atiyah gave him the job and became his friend.
Or they knew that this is the paper that all the embassies read. This is the paper of the town, which is the seat of the U.S. government. That bothered them.
To promote an image of a reforming nation, the kingdom comes here to K Street, the home of Washington's influence industry.
If you look at what this lobby and these PR firms have been able to spin in Saudi's case, it's, you know, a war in Yemen that's killed over 10,000 civilians, largely using U.S. bombs. It's a famine that they've created there. And the Crown Prince, he literally launched a palace coup, and we had our own president saying he was happy that we got our man on top because of that palace coup.
Last year, the Saudi regime spent more than $27 million on dozens of lobbying firms. At the centre of the lobbying effort is a multi-billion-dollar arms deal that now limits Donald Trump's capacity and desire to strongly respond to Saudi Arabia's actions.
He basically indicated on Fox News that the economic relationship that we have with Saudi Arabia, the arms sales that we have with Saudi Arabia, he effectively put those above the life of Jamal Khashoggi.
So it's kind of a test.
Yeah, I really think it is. I think what we're seeing with Jamal Khashoggi is another test of Saudi Arabia pushing the envelope further and further on the world stage and what they think they can get away with.
I would not be in favor of stopping a country from spending $110 billion, which is an all-time record, and letting Russia have that money and letting China have that money.
For many US senators, though, some of whom are recipients of Saudi donations, this latest incident has crossed a red line.
The focus is solely on Saudi Arabia right now, just put it that way.
He had this guy murdered in a consulate in Turkey, and to expect me to ignore it, I feel used and abused.
Donald Trump sends Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to Saudi Arabia to get to the bottom of it all. But the tone of the photo op was far from stern, even amid reports that Saudi Arabia may admit responsibility for an accidental death.
As of this moment, it seems that it was an accident, but this will be perhaps the greatest challenge for the US-Saudi strategic partnership since 9/11.
I feel for his family. I feel for his children and his kids and his fiance. But I'm angry. I'm angry that they would do this to anybody, but the brazenness to do it for somebody who writes for the Post is just beyond my comprehension of what is decent.